Yeah, so currently right now, I'm just trying to continue to pick up the pieces of my life, and try to gain some sense of normalcy. It's been unfortunate that this whole experience has been prolonged, more than it should be, given the behavior and the actions of the district's attorney's office. They have compounded my trauma even more than the actual experience, and to know that they have defamed my integrity, the person and the woman that I stand for, has kind of stifled, has actually really stifled multiple opportunities that I've worked so hard to get, as well as my safety and my life, today. By the time I got out the hospital, there was media everywhere, paparazzi everywhere. A false narrative was publicized, not only in a courtroom, but to the media as to what occurred when last time I checked, Kevin and I were the only two present in the room. And since that day moving forward, it's been nothing but chaos, in my life, that should have just been a personal matter. The information that they continue to put out has also been, I've been surprised by it as well, just like the general public, because the conversations that we're having behind closed doors is contradicting to the narrative, the false narrative and accusations that they're putting out there. I didn't speak to them until a week later after the event, of telling them my truth as to what happened. And because it didn't cultivate and support the false narrative that they already put out there, they haven't been as eager or determined to release my testimony, my truth as to what happened only to me and not anyone else. And in these recordings, you can hear my mom, who happened to be on the phone when they called, because they were harassing me nonstop. I didn't know who to believe. I was in a position where I didn't know who to trust, and that I just needed some time to process everything just going on. And so while they were calling, I happened to just buzz her in while I was on the phone with my mom. And in the conversations, you can hear her stating what they have done, why they brought forth charges to, in her words, for the elements of the case. She legally could not wait to hear from me because she needed to bring forth charges for the elements of the case. The injuries that she reported was by hearsay, what an officer overheard medical personnel say, and what, and was not accurate to my medical records. And to know that this information that they've held on to, and that they've manipulated evidence to support the elements of the case to bring forth charges against Mr. Porter, is absolutely defamatory, integral, and corruption. The result of my laceration above my eye did not come from what they publicized and put in a criminal statement. It did not come from Kevin striking me or balling his fist up and hitting me in the face multiple times. My injuries didn't support that. A laceration came from a fall where I hit the wall. And I specified that to them, just like they made up the narrative that he strangled me and my neck was broken, which was also false, that a doctor came forth and said what was not true. The criminal complaint that is out there, is based off of information that officers believed, they thought that what happened at the time. That is verbatimly stated by the supervisor of the district attorney's office in a phone call with me in October before the second court date, specifying that she apologizes for the false narrative and that the criminal complaint was filled out by police officers of what they believe they thought happened at the time. As she, along with the department, all do now, that know that that was false, they want to move forward with integrity of what is actual and factual. And still to this day, they have not put out the truth of what they've done and actually of the event that ultimately transpired. I spoke with them a week after, after everything was posted and publicized. They still withheld on to my statement because it didn't fit the false narrative and the accusations that they've already put out there. They got a chance to see me over a Zoom call, and I look the same as I do today with you on this call that I did in the Zoom conference, along with my attorney present, that showed that I had no injuries, and that was 5-6 days later. I had no bruises, I had no discoloration, I had nothing that supported what the false narrative that they put out there. Since the last court date, I have not been in communication with them. I gave them an opportunity and a chance to come clean, which they stated in emails that they would do so, which they stated on phone conversations that they would do so, and still ultimately somehow decided to come out with the verbiage of insufficient evidence that only they provided and not from the words of my mouth. Because the only update that needs to occur is them coming clean and holding themselves accountable for the lack of integrity and the false accusations and the manipulation of evidence and speculation that they have based this case on, which is not true.
They're going to assume that this is to protect Kevin. What do you say to that?
This is to protect me. This is to protect the integrity of who I stand for. This is to protect the name that I've worked so hard to create. To not sit back and be silent and allow someone the arrogance or the entitlement to feel as if they have power or consent to misrepresent who I am. That is why I'm coming forth. Because if they can do this to me and I'm the victim, I truly believe that I will not be the last, nor am I the first. And so I believe that in me being in this situation, that God is using this platform for me to share my truth, to also ignite and to electrify other people's testimonies, to have the confidence in order to do the same. Because this is a very unfortunate situation to know that the people that are put in the position that are supposed to protect and serve us, civilians of this community, can also corrupt and put us in a place that is unsafe and unethical to promote their own personal gain, political gains, to increase their integrity and not value my own. I never called 911. You know, Kevin came in very adamant about wanting to have a conversation. I was asleep. You know, him coming in and grabbing me by the shoulders to try to wake me up to have that conversation. I was very hazy. I could smell the hue of alcohol. Clearly, it wasn't the right place nor the right time to even have a discussion that, to be honest with you, I still don't know what that conversation was that he wanted to have because I haven't communicated with him. And it doesn't matter at this point. And in result of that, me trying to awaken and hurry up and quickly stand up in bed, I fell and I hit the side of my head against the wall. You know, there's evidence to show that there was a makeup smear and a little blood spatter, you know, on the wall that resulted in the laceration of my eye. I don't know if you've ever tried to hurry up and stand up in a bed, but there's an imbalance there. It's like a trampoline. I fell off. And once when I noticed the blood, to be completely honest, I was in shock. I panicked and I ran out the room. And the security that let him in, because I was unaware that he was locked out, was also at the elevator by the time I ran out. So that goes to show you how quick the event transpired, that that man was still waiting for the elevator to come up to the floor for him to go down. It was not what was publicly falsified with narratives and statements and injuries that I never had or things that never occurred. And to know that that came at the hands of someone who was supposed to protect me is very disturbing and disheartening. I do not have contact with Kevin. My focus right now is my life and picking up the pieces as to what they are continuing to do for me and to lack ownership. And I'm not going to rest until it happens. To know that they are so arrogant and that they feel too empowered to correct their own mistakes. And I don't even consider it as a mistake because they know what they're doing. And to try to silence me in the process of that. I am well aware that if a civilian were to sit in a court of law and to sit on a stand and lie, if they were to sit on there and to falsify statements and accusations, if they were to sit there and to manipulate evidence, that is a felony and that is a crime. So just because someone else is in a different position, why should they not be held to the same standard and merit as a regular civilian in America? Yeah. And so I challenge the system for that. I challenge them in the injustice to have justice for their behavior. Because last time I checked, no matter what position or job title it may think that someone is, we're all human. And no one, no official, no officer, no prosecutor, and no supervisor should be above the law. And I'm not going to quit until I find justice in what they've done to me and ultimately the situation, and challenge everyone else who has been in this position before to speak their truth as well. It's been a roller coaster of emotions. Honestly, God has done a great work inside of me through this experience. And now that I'm starting to get on the other side of it, I'm grateful, but it's hurt. It's been painful. I have days where I feel empowered. I feel untouchable, feel like I can put one foot in front of the other. And then I have moments where I can't even get out of bed and I cry all day. And then I set my alarm clock for 5:30 and I get up and attack the next day with Pilates. You know, I'm learning a lot about myself. Doesn't justify that what they've done is right, but they've also empowered me to know who I am and to know my worth, and to never fear anyone, no man but God. And so this experience has been, you know, a learning one. You know, it's brought out the best of me and it's brought out the worst of me. Through this experience, God has placed people in my life, such as Bobby, you know, and my team around me that can also help catapult me to be able to be determined and optimistic about what my future holds. Especially being in many moments where I didn't know what that was going to look like. You know, having opportunities stifled, you know, me being an athlete and pursuing, you know, continuing to pursue my dream of playing basketball. You know, now the speculation is that I've had a broken back, a broken spine, you know, that are all, you know, impactful in my workplace. This isn't about social media. This isn't about winning the general public's opinion. This is about validating my own and ultimately doing the right thing. And as one of God's own, I truly believe that in ultimately doing the right thing will do right by me. And I know that in doing the right thing, it's not entertaining, right? It's not exciting to post, but I believe and trust that there are more people like myself and like Bobby and my team that will put their pride aside and ultimately use their platform to do what is right. Because at the end, our word is all we have. And that's the integral part about being a human being. Fix it. Come forward. Tell the truth. Stop telling me the truth. I don't want to hear it in phone calls. I'm going to continue to record. I don't want to see it in emails. I'm going to continue to screenshot. I'm not going to be quiet. I'm going to continue to speak my truth until the day you come forward and acknowledge what you have done wrong. And if you've done it to someone else, speak about that as well, because they've been too comfortable doing this to me that I doubt this will be their first nor their last time. You know, I believe they jumped the gun too soon. They thought that I would be on the same side of their injustice, which wasn't true, as they're now starting to realize. They saw an African-American male. They saw a professional athlete. They saw a young woman who was just in complete shock and trying to process what ultimately just happened. And in hindsight of that, they thought that it would be a win-win for both parties involved. One on their end, having the case of the year, their own, you know, political gain, being promoted, and on my side, being able to reap the benefits and cash in from my traumatic experience. But what they didn't do was their research on who I am. To try to belittle my character and integrity, that's not the woman I am, and that's not what I stand for. I don't believe in undermining someone else's character and integrity and defaming that to ultimately increase the value of who I stand proudly today. And then ultimately it backfired.
Yeah, the long and short of it is there really is a simplicity to this. You have a young woman who had an incident with her boyfriend in a hotel room, and he'll deal with her. He'll have to, you know, Kevin and Kysre will deal with this together, and he will answer to her. But what this really has been about lately has been just the unwillingness. It's a stubbornness, but knowing the difficulties that Kysre was facing because of a situation that the government created, meaning just in an inaccurate story, putting it out there. The fact that he broke her neck, he didn't. And then when she acknowledged, the prosecutor acknowledged, it's shocking. I'm a former prosecutor myself. And it's actually shocking that a seasoned lawyer, seasoned prosecutor would claim in public that a defendant, a citizen accused, broke the victim's neck when it not only didn't happen, but later on she said, well, that's something that an officer overheard a doctor say. I mean, that's shocking. To me, that's shocking. And that's not hyperbole. But then the repeated statements that just weren't accurate, that he beat her several times above the head, never happened. That he did this before to her, never happened. that he tried to, run her over, use a car. Never happened. It just never happened. It never came close to happening. And once alerted as to the falsity of this, now forget the case against Kevin Porter, whatever. He's got defense attorneys. I'm sure they're seeking all the Brady information out there. That's not this. It's just that something like this is happening to Kysre as a extraordinary woman, fully developed, educated, an acclaimed person in her own right. And she's being treated like someone who should be mopping up the table in a diner, because the prosecutors are basically have this paternalism saying, we know better and we know what's good for you. And even though we'll tell you behind closed doors that you're right, but even though behind closed doors we'll tell you that you're right, we just won't say it publicly. And every day that they've refused to do that, it's been specifically requested and they've been alerted as to the problems. And every day that they haven't come forward and corrected the record, the public is looking at the young woman before you saying, oh, she got bought. Oh, she inflamed the accusations against her boyfriend, and then she retreated. She just never retreated. The simplicity of this is that Kysre has just wanted them to tell the truth. Just tell the truth. The defendants is entitled to the information. They may have it already. But what she wanted was, she's their victim. She's the person they're supposed to be protecting on some level. And all they've really been doing is hurting her. It's wrong. For me, it's unethical. I think it's a bit immoral. I don't know what the motivations were, but they were told unequivocally these things didn't happen. And they were told that she's been in danger. She's gotten death threats at some point. And that's why I'm here with her talking to you, because it's wrong and they still haven't corrected it despite repeated efforts. And they're being on notice as to the danger it's placed Kysre in. And secondly, the message is kind of simple. Do your job the right way. Speak the truth. Just acknowledge what happened. Acknowledge your mistakes. Acknowledge that the young woman before you told you the truth, told you what happened. She didn't recant. She didn't change. She hasn't been corrupted. It's been consistent from the get-go. And fulfill your obligations to her. What happened between her and Kevin happened between her and Kevin. That's fine. They'll get their justice, both together as a couple, separately, whatever that is. But just be honest, for God's sakes. I mean, it's really remarkable that they didn't stand in front of the courthouse, and there were political reasons why, but they didn't stand in front of the courthouse and say, you know what, we've been told, we heard a young woman, we didn't mean to do it, and this is what happened, and this is what happened, and she said this, and she told us, and she never said this, and we understand that she's been hurt as a result. But we, as the government that has been giving information to the media, now we are telling you the full truth. From the get-go, she was consistent, and these other things never happened. What happens to Kevin Porter happens to Kevin Porter. What happens to Kysre is very important, and they should just show that after all this time waiting for a statement of truth, it's time. That's where it all starts.